Have you ever found yourself trying to grasp, a really profound concept, something that feels essential, but you just get lost in all the details? You just want the core wisdom, the practical stuff, without feeling like you need, well, forever to process it all.
Yeah, that happens a lot. And that's exactly why we do these deep dives, right? We try to sift through everything and pull out that essence for you.
Exactly. And today, we're plunging into an incredibly rich lecture. It's from Venerable Master Bennie, produced by Chön Ngộ, that's Grace Spirit, which you, our listener, kindly shared. The topic is generating the Bodhi Mind, overcoming obstacles to practice.
And the source material, it's this fascinating dialogue, really. It's between the master and his disciples, and it's just packed with these vivid analogies and very practical insights into the spiritual path.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We want to pull out the core wisdom of this Bodhi Mind, understand what it really means, then identify the obstacles we all face, the universal ones, and most importantly, find those actionable pathways, ways to cultivate wisdom and merit right in our daily lives. So where do we start with understanding the Bodhi Mind?
Well, at its heart, the Bodhi Mind, or Tumbo as it's called, it's basically a state of enlightened thought. Or maybe awakening is a better word. It's this profound aspiration, this resolve to seek enlightenment, not just for yourself, but really for the benefit of all beings. It's active, it's compassionate.
Right, not just a passive idea. And the master uses some, really powerful analogies to help us get it. The first one is quite striking. The Bodhi Mind is like a sharp sword, capable of cutting through all armor of pride. Now, the disciple, I think, specifically asks, why pride? Is that the main thing?
Yes, and the master's answer is really insightful. He says pride is like a high hill. And a high hill, well, it can't hold virtuous water, which means merit. So any good you accumulate, it just washes away. If you're asking for blessings, but your pride is like this filter keeping them out, how can you receive them?
So it's not just the good things get lost, but pride actively stops the good from even taking root. Like armor that's supposed to protect you, but it actually shields you from the good stuff while letting the bad stuff in. It really makes sense of the analogy.
Precisely. It protects you from what could help you grow. And this, the master notes, leads to this kind of destructive pattern. When we're full of pride, we tend to surround ourselves with people who are, frankly, worse than us. We shy away from people who are better, who could challenge us. And sometimes, even worse, we might actively try to undermine or, get rid of people we see as superior.
Wow. That reminds me of that saying, better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. That's pure pride, isn't it? Wanting to be top dog in a small pond instead of learning from the best. What's a key takeaway for us here?
I think the insight is that pride isn't just some minor flaw. It's a real barrier. It blocks growth. It blocks connection. It isolates us from wisdom and from people who could actually help us. So to cultivate that Bodhi mind, that sharp sword, the first cut has to be through this pride that stops us seeing ourselves clearly and wanting to improve.
That's really crucial. Okay, moving on, another strong analogy. The Bodhi mind is like a brave chess flag, capable of subduing all demonic forces. A brave chess flag. It sounds so active, so leading. The master clarifies chess flag, or tuing, actually means dharma, this powerful force, is the idea that an enlightened mind isn't just wise, but it actively leads the charge against our inner chaos. Like a general.
Exactly like a general. It suggests the Bodhi mind isn't passive. It's not just some nice idea. It's an active, strategic force inside us. It confronts and subdues those inner demons, our negative habits, our anxieties, all that stuff. The insight is it's about developing this inner command, this resilience that guides our path. Yeah, just like a general leading troops.
Okay. Then we get a pair of analogies, both about cutting. The Bodhi mind is like a sharp saw, capable of cutting down every tree of ignorance, and also like a sharp axe, capable of cutting down all trees of suffering.
Right. So ignorance first, then suffering. And the master clarifies that suffering here, he means karmic retribution specifically. Quo.
And this is where it gets really deep, doesn't it? He says that within the Bodhi mind, there's a point, something specific, that eradicates this karmic retribution. And it can do it immediately. How do we even start to understand that? What kind of power is that?
It is. It's a very profound claim. He then goes on to describe the Bodhi mind using another image, a skillful hand protecting all bodies of liberation.
A skillful hand. Bante then. That sounds like spiritual skill, dexterity. Not just meaning well, but actually having the competence, the mental and spiritual ability to help and protect others effectively. Real capability.
Yeah, exactly. And linked to that, the Bodhi mind is like good feet, establishing all merits. This means, well, two things, really. First, standing firm in your practice precepts, meditation, wisdom, compassion, all of it. But also being able to go anywhere needed to help sentient beings. It's having that solid foundation, but also the mobility to act in the world.
Which leads to that cooked noodles analogy. I found this one so vivid, almost funny, but also quite pointed. The master says many people are like cooked noodles. They can't stand firm. They can't establish merit. They can't handle difficulties. Why? Because they've cooked themselves. They're just too soft, no structure.
It's a stark image, isn't it? It really highlights that lack of inner resilience, that lack of a stable foundation in practice. And if you don't have that foundation, well, facing life's big challenges, like karmic retribution, becomes incredibly hard.
That makes perfect sense. If you're like cooked noodles, you definitely can't stand up to suffering. Which brings us back to that really big claim the master made earlier. How does the Bodhi mind allow someone to immediately deal with karmic retribution? What's the actual method?
Okay, so the master talks about cultivating something called divine insight into circumstances, or thong thong. Now, this isn't just positive thinking. It's a deep ability to see the true nature of a situation, maybe pain or sickness, and then, crucially, to consciously transform your relationship to it. It's like seeing the underlying reality and being able to shift it, rather than just being caught in the surface appearance.
So changing your experience of it.
Exactly. But, and this is the challenge the master points out, people are usually really good at turning good things into bad things. They buy suffering with merit, he says, which is the complete opposite of this power, right?
Wow. By suffering with merit. That's quite a phrase. It reminds me of that story about Milarepa, how he accepted poison even though he apparently had the power to get rid of it. What's the lesson there about facing karma?
Right. The master explains Milarepa took it willingly because he knew it was his karma, his retribution coming due. He understood that by accepting it then, even if it meant dying, he would essentially change clothes, be reborn into a better situation, a better body, with more merit and wisdom. The lesson is pretty radical. If you don't accept and deal with your current karmic debt, it just gets bigger later. It rolls over with interest, you could say. It's about total accountability and trusting the process.
That's a powerful take on accountability. And it connects back to what we said about pride, but not listening to advice. The master says if advice hurts you, it's probably because you already have that flaw inside you. Does he say more about why pride makes us resist learning from those who are better?
He emphasizes that Dharma, the teaching, it doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It needs causes and conditions, or dien. If you lack wisdom or merit or just that basic affinity, you simply can't grasp the teachings properly. The words might hit your ears, but they don't sink in because the inner ground isn't fertile, you know?
So the inner landscape needs to be ready.
Oh, exactly. Which raises the question, why do we resist seeing our own flaws? The master really stresses recognizing your shortcomings and confessing them, Samho. That act of honest self-assessment is fundamental. It creates the conditions needed for real understanding to dawn.
Humility and self-awareness as prerequisites for learning. Makes sense. Now, speaking of accountability, the master talks about another kind of debt, a debt to the Buddha and to all sentient beings, especially when monks or nuns accept offerings.
That's right. Accepting offerings isn't free, according to the master. It creates a debt, and you absolutely must repay it. How? Well, keeping precepts, Triyu, is the foundation. That act alone generates huge merit, like getting a mountain for a grain of rice, he says. This merit helps repay the debt to beings because living virtuously reduces harm and benefits everyone.
And he mentions the 5 contemplations during meals. That's the minimum just to break even for that meal. Those aren't just simple grace, are they?
No, not at all. They're a deep reflection. Thinking about where the food came from, all the effort involved, reflecting on your own virtue or lack thereof, understanding the purpose of eating is to sustain practice, not just for pleasure. It's about consciously making eating a spiritual practice. But that only covers the meal. Other offerings need other ways to generate merit.
So how do you generate more merit, enough to really pay back and maybe even get ahead?
This is where the master's approach to Dharma offerings, Kung Dong Fap, is really clever. He explains he refuses to take money donated for printing scriptures as if it were his personal offering. Instead, he treats it like a trust fund, basically. He invests it in propagating the Dharma, printing more texts, spreading the teachings.
Ah, so the original donor's merit gets multiplied.
Massively. It benefits far more beings, creates way more merit for the donor, and helps the master fulfill his role. It becomes this win-win-win situation where everyone profits spiritually. The insight is seeing Dharma propagation as the absolute best investment, yielding yielding dividends for countless beings.
That's a brilliant way to handle offerings, turning them into a force multiplier for good. Now, what about something really fundamental like ordination, becoming a monk or nun? The master seems to challenge the common view pretty strongly.
He really does. He says, look, it's not just shaving your head and putting on robes. True ordination, sujaya, is this incredibly rigorous process. It requires pure intention. You can't have committed major evils. You need permission from parents and the state.
Yeah.
And then you have to strictly follow the precepts. First, as a novice, a sati, then the full precepts as a tukyo. It's a serious step-by-step discipline.
And those summer retreats, the unkamua, they sound intense, like a spiritual boot camp.
They absolutely are. Periods of really focused, intense practice and study. That's how you develop genuine spiritual achievement and eventually become an elder monk, a tukyo trunglam. But here's the kicker, the master's sobering assessment. He says basically no one truly ordains these days because most can't even keep one precept perfectly purely.
Wow, that's a very high standard.
It is. It underscores the immense commitment and integrity involved in genuine spiritual life, according to this teaching. It's not a casual undertaking.
It certainly isn't. And that brings us back, in a way, to humility. Specifically, the power of shame and modesty. Holthan Poln. How does this fit in?
It connects directly back to that first point about pride being the biggest obstacle. The master emphasizes how crucial shame, meaning a healthy sense of recognizing one's faults and modesty, are. He points out that great practitioners throughout history, even enlightened ones, often call themselves ashamed monks or ashamed nuns. Why? To constantly acknowledge their imperfections, to stay humble despite their achievements.
So it's the opposite of arrogance.
Exactly. He says without this sense of shame, this humility, one is basically no different from an animal, just pretending to be accomplished when you're not. And that leads to a very grave offense, claiming attainment without attaining. It's a serious warning against spiritual pride and faking it.
That is a powerful and, yes, humbling thought to reflect on as we wrap up our deep dive today.
Indeed. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? We've explored the Bodhi Mind, looked at the dangers of pride, the wisdom in accepting karma, and these really deep responsibilities around cultivating merit and practicing with true integrity.
And, this deep dive, while it comes from Buddhist philosophy, it really offers this amazing framework for understanding universal principles.
Yeah.
Things like self-improvement, accountability, living wisely. These apply in any context, whatever path you're on. It's about building that foundation of integrity.
Definitely. And maybe connecting it all, the master leaves us with this final, pretty provocative thought. If you don't have a bit of wisdom, a bit of merit, and good causes and conditions, and you're full of defilements, you certainly won't understand.
So the challenge for you, listening right now, is maybe. How does that land with you? How does it challenge you to actively cultivate those conditions, the wisdom, the merit, the good causes, so that deeper understanding and real transformation can happen in your own life? It's definitely something worth sitting with.